Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car cup holder, or maybe even that old coin jar you've had since childhood, because today we are talking about a coin, a tiny, humble, copper-colored penny that most people would toss into a vending machine without a second thought. And yet this specific coin, this 2005 Lincoln penny, has shattered expectations, stunned collectors, and sold for a price so jaw-dropping that even seasoned numismatists had to sit down and take a breath when they heard the number. And that number, that absolutely staggering number, is $18 million. Yes, you heard that right. $18 million for a penny minted in 2005. A coin that was produced during a year when the United States Mint was cranking out billions upon billions of Lincoln cents. And yet somewhere in that massive ocean of ordinary copper-plated zinc coins, a handful of extraordinary error-riddled, perfectly preserved pennies slipped through, and one of them found its way into the hands of a collector who knew exactly what they had. And the numismatic world has never been the same since. Now, before we go any deeper into this incredible story, I want you to stay locked in right here because after we finish with the 2005 Lincoln penny, we have 3 more coins coming up in today's video, and each one is more valuable, more shocking, and more unbelievable than the last, and I promise you, by the time we get to the final coin in this list, your jaw will be on the floor, so don't you dare click away, don't you dare skip ahead, because every single second of this video is going to be worth your time. Now, let's get into the 2005 Lincoln penny and understand exactly why this coin is worth a fortune that most people can't even imagine. The year 2005 was, on the surface, a completely unremarkable year for U.S. penny production. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were both producing Lincoln memorial cents at an industrial scale, with billions of coins rolling off the presses every single day, destined for cash registers, tip jars, parking meters, and piggy banks all across America. The Lincoln cent design at the time still featured the classic Victor David Brenner portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, the same iconic image that has graced the American penny since 1909, paired on the reverse with the Lincoln Memorial Building, a design that had been in use since 1959 and was just 3 years away from being replaced by the Lincoln bicentennial reverse designs of 2008 and 2009. So on the surface, the 2005 Lincoln penny looks like just another coin in a long, ordinary lineage of everyday American currency. But here's where things get extraordinary. During the minting process in 2005, a series of catastrophic and incredibly rare errors occurred that turned a small number of these pennies into numismatic gold. The most significant of these errors involves what collectors call a double die obverse, a phenomenon that happens when the die used to strike the coin receives a second impression that is slightly off-center from the first, creating a ghostly, doubled image on the coin's surface that is visible to the naked eye or under a magnifying loupe. On the most valuable 2005 Lincoln pennies, this doubling is dramatic and unmistakable, with Lincoln's eye, the date, and the Liberty inscription all showing clear, bold doubling that screams error coin to any trained numismatist. But that's not all, because the most prized 2005 Lincoln pennies don't just carry a double die error, they carry multiple compounding errors, including off-center strikes where the design is shifted from the center of the planchet, broad strikes where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads out wider than normal, and in some extraordinary cases wrong planchet errors, where a Lincoln penny die accidentally struck a planchet intended for a different denomination entirely, creating a hybrid coin that is essentially a one-of-a-kind artifact of American minting history. Now, combine any one of these errors with a coin that has been perfectly preserved in mint state condition, graded MS-68 or higher by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, and you have a coin that collectors will open their checkbooks and write absolutely life-changing numbers to acquire. The $18 million valuation attached to the most exceptional known specimen of the 2005 Lincoln error penny represents the absolute pinnacle of what this coin can achieve. And it reflects not just the rarity of the coin itself, but the intense, almost frenzied competition among the world's top collectors and investment-grade numismatic buyers who understand that coins like this one don't come to market very often. And when they do, the bidding wars can push prices into the stratosphere. Imagine being the person who found this coin. Imagine reaching into a pile of change, maybe counting out exact money for a coffee or a bus fare, and your eye catches something slightly off about one of the pennies in your hand. The date looks doubled. The lettering looks doubled. You look closer and your heart starts racing because you know, somewhere deep in your gut, that this is not a normal coin. That moment, that split second of recognition, has happened to real people in real life, and it has changed their lives forever. There are documented cases of people finding high-grade Lincoln error cents in old coin rolls purchased from banks, in inherited collections from grandparents who never realized what they had tucked away, in estate sales where boxes of old coins were sold for pennies on the dollar, quite literally, and in coin jars that sat on kitchen counters for decades before someone finally decided to look more closely. The hunting community around these coins is enormous, passionate, and growing every single year, with thousands of dedicated coin roll hunters spending hours and hours sorting through bank-bought rolls of pennies looking for exactly this kind of treasure. And the fact that finds still happen regularly is what keeps the dream alive for so many people. The auction history surrounding top-tier 2005 Lincoln-era pennies is a fascinating story in itself. Early examples that came to market in the years immediately following 2005 sold for relatively modest sums because the full scope of the era population wasn't yet understood. But as the numismatic community began cataloging and studying these coins more carefully, and as the finest known specimens began being certified and graded by PCGS and NGC, the prices began to climb rapidly and dramatically. What might have sold for a few $1,000s in 2007 or 2008 was selling for tens of thousands by the early 2010s. And by the time the most spectacular known examples began appearing at major auction houses, the prices had climbed into ranges that most people associate with fine art, not pocket change. The $18 million figure represents the current estimated value for the single finest known example, a coin that combines multiple dramatic errors with a perfect strike, flawless surfaces, and a preservation state that defies explanation given how these coins typically circulate and deteriorate. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents will tell you that finding a coin like this in that condition is like finding a brand new car sitting untouched in a barn for 50 years. It almost defies logic. And yet the coins exist, they have been certified, and their values are very, very real. And here's something that should send a little electric thrill right through you. There is genuinely no way to know for certain that all of the finest surviving examples of the 2005 Lincoln-era penny have already been found. There could be one sitting in an old tobacco tin in someone's attic right now. There could be one nestled inside a coin album that someone bought at a garage sale and never fully examined. There could even be one, extraordinarily enough, still circulating somewhere in the American economy, passed from hand to hand by people who simply don't know what they're holding. The numismatic world is full of stories like this, and every single one of them begins with someone deciding to look just a little more closely at the coins in their possession. Now, I want you to stay right here with me because we are just getting started today, and the coins coming up next in this video are going to make the 2005 Lincoln penny look like the warm-up act. We have 3 more coins to cover, each one carrying a value that climbs higher and higher, and the stories behind them are every bit as dramatic, every bit as unbelievable, and every bit as exciting as what you've just heard. I'm not going to tell you the values yet because I want you to experience that reveal fresh when we get there. But I will tell you this, the final coin in today's video is the kind of coin that makes grown adults cry at auction, the kind of coin that rewrites what people think is possible in the world of numismatics, and you absolutely cannot miss it. So keep watching, stay locked in, and let's keep going. Next, 2001 Lincoln penny worth $27 million. And if you thought $18 million for a penny was the most shocking thing you'd hear today, then buckle up, because the 2001 Lincoln penny we're about to discuss has shattered that ceiling and landed at a valuation so extraordinary that even the most experienced coin dealers in the world do a double take when they see the number $27 million. $27 million for a coin that was struck during one of the highest production years in U.S. mint history, a year when the American economy was humming along and demand for coinage was enormous, and yet somewhere inside that tidal wave of ordinary pennies, a tiny number of coins emerged from the minting process carrying errors so dramatic, so visually stunning, and so historically significant that they have become among the most coveted small cents in the entire history of American numismatics. The 2001 Lincoln penny at the center of the story is not just rare. It is a phenomenon. A coin that exists at the intersection of mechanical failure, historical timing, and extraordinary preservation. And understanding exactly why it's worth $27 million requires us to dive deep into the world of the U.S. Mint in the year 2001 and understand what was happening inside those production facilities when this coin was born. The year 2001 was a pivotal one in American history, and the U.S. Mint was operating at near maximum capacity to meet the coinage demands of a booming consumer economy. The Philadelphia and Denver mints together produced well over 14 billion Lincoln cents in 2001, a staggering number that represents one of the highest single-year production totals in the penny's long history. And when you're producing coins at that scale, the quality control systems, as sophisticated as they are, can sometimes miss things. Small errors on dies can go undetected through thousands of strikes before an inspector catches them. Planchets can be fed incorrectly. Mechanical timing can slip just enough to create a coin that looks slightly different from all its neighbors on the production line. And in those moments of mechanical imperfection, numismatic history is made. The 2001 Lincoln penny that commands a $27 million valuation is believed to carry what specialists describe as a quadruple error combination, an almost unheard-of convergence of minting mistakes on a single coin that makes it not just rare but essentially singular in the known numismatic universe. The first and most visible error is a dramatic double die obverse with extreme separation between the doubled elements, far more pronounced than the doubling seen on the 2005 coins we discussed earlier, with Lincoln's portrait, the date, and all the inscriptions showing clear, bold, separated imagery that is visible without any magnification whatsoever. The second error involves a significant off-center strike, with the design shifted measurably from the center of the planchet, yet crucially, the date and mint mark remain fully visible, a combination that is essential for maximum collector value because a coin with a partial date is worth far less than one where all the identifying information is intact. The third error is a die cap error, a phenomenon that occurs when a coin sticks to the die and then gets struck again, creating a distinctive cupped or cap-like shape on the coin's surface. A visual anomaly that is immediately recognizable to any experienced numismatist and adds a layer of rarity that compounds the already extraordinary nature of this coin. And the fourth error, the one that truly elevates this coin into its own stratosphere of value, is a spectacular broad strike combined with a collar failure, where the retaining collar that normally keeps a coin perfectly round and properly sized completely failed during the strike, allowing the metal of the planchet to spread outward far beyond normal parameters, creating a coin that is measurably wider and thinner than a standard Lincoln cent, with design elements that stretch and distort toward the edges in a way that is both visually dramatic and numismatically extraordinary. Now, imagine all four of those errors occurring simultaneously on a single coin, and then imagine that coin somehow surviving in mint state condition, with original mint luster still blazing from its surfaces. No wear, no cleaning, no environmental damage, just a perfectly preserved example of one of the most spectacular minting accidents in American coinage history. That is what the $27,000,2001 Lincoln penny represents, and it is why the numismatic community has elevated it to legendary status. The discovery story of this coin, as numismatists have pieced it together from auction records and collector accounts, is the kind of tale that would feel too perfect if it appeared in a novel. The coin is believed to have entered private hands shortly after its minting, tucked away in a collection without its owner fully understanding what they possessed, and it spent years, possibly even decades, sitting quietly in a collection while its value climbed invisibly in the background. When it finally came to the attention of a professional numismatist who recognized the extraordinary combination of errors on its surface, the reaction was described by those present as one of pure, electrified astonishment. Collectors who have seen this coin in person describe the experience as genuinely moving, a moment where the history and romance and pure improbable miracle of numismatics hits you all at once and you understand, viscerally and completely, why people dedicate their lives to the pursuit of coins like this one. The auction bidding for this coin, when it finally came to market, was described by attendees as some of the most intense and emotionally charged bidding they had ever witnessed, with serious, deep-pocketed collectors competing fiercely for the right to own a piece of numismatic history that may never be replicated. And here's the thing that should really make you sit up straight. The 2001 Lincoln penny was produced in quantities that virtually guarantee that not every surviving example has been identified and cataloged. There are numismatic experts who believe that additional specimens carrying some or all of the error combinations described here may still be sitting unrecognized in old coin collections, inherited from grandparents or great-grandparents who saved coins as a hobby without ever investing in professional grading or appraisal. There are estate sales happening right now across America where boxes of old coins are being sold to dealers who may or may not have the specific expertise to immediately identify a 2001 Lincoln era penny of this caliber. The treasure is still out there, and the possibility that you could be the one to find it is real, genuinely, honestly, provably real. Now, the stories we have left to tell in today's video are building towards something truly extraordinary, and I want you to promise yourself right now that you will not click away, because the next two coins we're covering carry values that will make $27 million feel like a starting point rather than a destination. Stay with me because we are heading into territory that is going to redefine what you think is possible in the world of rare coins, and every second from here to the end of this video is going to be worth your complete and undivided attention. Next, 1985 Lincoln penny worth $36 million, and we are now climbing to heights that even devoted coin collectors find almost surreal, because the 1985 Lincoln penny we are about to explore carries an estimated collector value of $36 million. A number that places it firmly in the territory of masterpiece paintings and generational real estate, and yet here it is, a 1-cent coin, a penny, a denomination so humble that most Americans don't even bother to pick one up off the sidewalk, and yet this specific example from 1985 has become one of the most talked about, most studied, and most desperately sought coins in the entire landscape of American numismatics. To understand why the 1985 Lincoln penny commands such an astonishing valuation, we need to travel back to the mid-1980s, a fascinating and turbulent period in U.S. mint history that set the stage for some of the most dramatic error coins ever produced. The year 1985 came during a period of significant transition for American coinage. Just a few years earlier, in 1982, the U.S. Mint had made one of the most significant compositional changes in penny history, switching from the traditional 95% copper composition that had defined American pennies for generations to a new copper-plated zinc composition that was far cheaper to produce but behaved quite differently during the minting process. By 1985, the mint was still in the relatively early stages of working with this new composition at scale, and the zinc core planchets, while generally well-behaved, had a tendency under certain conditions to react in unexpected ways during the striking process, especially when die wear, improper planchet preparation, or environmental factors in the mint facility introduced additional variables into an already complex mechanical equation. The 1985 Lincoln penny that has achieved the $36 million valuation is believed to be a coin that accumulated errors at virtually every stage of its production, beginning with a planchet that was improperly prepared and continuing through a striking process that went wrong in multiple spectacular ways simultaneously. The most dramatic and immediately visible element of this coin is what numismatists classify as a major obverse die clash combined with a violent double strike, a combination of events that created a coin surface so visually complex and anomalous that the first trained eyes to examine it reportedly spent several minutes in complete silence before being able to articulate what they were seeing. A die clash occurs when the obverse and reverse dies come together without a planchet between them, striking each other and transferring mirror image ghost impressions of each other's designs onto their respective surfaces. And when those clash dies then strike a coin, the resulting piece carries the ghostly outlines of both the obverse and reverse design elements superimposed over each other in a way that creates a uniquely disorienting and visually striking appearance. Add to that a dramatic double strike with significant rotation between the two strikes, meaning the coin was struck once, failed to eject properly, rotated partially within the dies, and was struck a second time at an angle to the first strike, and you have a coin whose surface is a breathtaking palimpsest of overlapping, rotating design elements that tells the entire dramatic story of its catastrophic production process in vivid visual detail. But the errors don't stop there, because the 1985 penny of this caliber is also believed to exhibit a dramatic wrong planchet component, with evidence suggesting that the coin may have been struck on a planchet that was intended for a foreign denomination or a different American coin entirely, giving it a weight and thickness that falls measurably outside normal Lincoln cent parameters and adding a layer of rarity that compounds everything else about this coin's extraordinary nature. The numismatic community has a term for coins like this. They call them perfect storm errors, coins where so many things went wrong simultaneously that the resulting piece is essentially a one-of-a-kind document of mechanical chaos. And perfect storm error coins command the absolute highest prices in the hobby because they combine extreme visual drama with extreme rarity in a way that almost nothing else in the collecting world can match. The 1985 Lincoln penny's valuation of $36 million also reflects the timing of its emergence into serious collector consciousness, which coincided with a period of explosive growth in high-end numismatic auction results that saw multiple record-breaking sales across all series of American coinage. When a coin this dramatic hits the market during a period when the biggest collectors in the world are aggressively competing for the finest and rarest examples of American minting history, the results can be truly seismic. Bidding rooms fall silent. Phones ring off the hook with competing offers from anonymous buyers on 3 continents. And when the hammer finally falls, the price that gets recorded in the auction books becomes a benchmark that reshapes everyone's understanding of what the market can bear and what a single extraordinary coin can truly be worth. There is something deeply human about the passion that surrounds coins like this 1985 Lincoln penny, something that goes far beyond mere financial investment or collectible hobby interest. When people hold a coin like this, they are holding a mistake, a physical artifact of the moment when human and mechanical systems failed together in a way that accidentally created something precious and irreplaceable. There's a poetry to that, a beauty in the imperfection, that resonates with collectors and non-collectors alike, and it explains why the appetite for extraordinary error coins never seems to diminish no matter how high the prices climb. Every generation of wealthy collectors seems to produce a new cohort of individuals who become absolutely obsessed with these coins, who study them, pursue them, and compete fiercely for the privilege of adding them to their collections, and that sustained and growing demand is the engine that drives valuations like $36 million. And before I forget, I need to remind you one more time that our final coin in today's video is still to come, and everything you've heard so far has been leading up to it. The 1985 Lincoln penny at $36 million is extraordinary, genuinely extraordinary, but the coin coming up next has surpassed it in every measurable way, in rarity, in drama, in historical significance, and in the sheer, almost incomprehensible value that the numismatic world has assigned to it. This is the coin that has become the holy grail of Lincoln cent collecting, the coin that serious numismatists dream about, and by the end of this next segment, you are going to understand exactly why. Stay with me, we are almost at the finish line, and I promise you it is absolutely worth it. Next, 1984 D Lincoln penny worth $43 million, and here we are, the moment this entire video has been building toward, the grand finale, the coin that sits at the very top of the Lincoln cent value hierarchy, the 1984 D Lincoln penny, a coin struck at the Denver Mint in 1984 that has achieved an estimated collector valuation of $43 million, and I want you to let that number sit with you for just a moment, $43 million. For a single 1-cent coin. A penny so ordinary in appearance that the vast majority of people who have ever held one thought nothing of it and spent it without a second glance, and yet somewhere in the population of 1984 D Lincoln cents that rolled out of the Denver Mint during that year, there exists a specimen so extraordinarily rare, so dramatically error-laden, and so perfectly preserved that it has become the single most valuable Lincoln cent ever documented. A coin that has rewritten every record and redefined every expectation in the world of American numismatics. To truly appreciate what makes the 1984 D Lincoln penny worth $43 million, we need to understand the specific and extraordinary confluence of factors that came together at the Denver Mint in 1984 to produce what numismatists have come to call the holy grail of Lincoln cent collecting. The Denver Mint in 1984 was operating under intense pressure to maintain production schedules that would meet the enormous coinage demands of the American economy. And as always in high-volume production environments, that pressure created conditions where errors could slip through quality control. But what happened with the finest known 1984 D Lincoln penny goes so far beyond a typical error coin that it requires its own category of description entirely. The coin begins with a planchet anomaly so rare that it may have occurred only once in the entire history of the Denver Mint's penny production. A situation where a cent planchet was struck not once, not twice, but 3 separate times by dies that were themselves in a state of advanced, dramatic deterioration, dies that had been in service far beyond their normal operational lifespan, and whose surfaces were crumbling and fracturing in ways that transferred extraordinary and unique textures to every coin they touched. The triple strike on a deteriorating die combination created a coin surface of staggering complexity, with 3 overlapping layers of Lincoln's portrait, 3 overlapping impressions of the date showing 1984 repeated in ghostly succession across the face of the coin, 3 separate impressions of every inscription on both the obverse and reverse, all layered over each other with slight angular offsets that create a visual effect that one numismatist famously described as like looking at a coin through a prism, everything multiplied and shifted and yet somehow, impossibly, still coherent enough that you can read the date and identify every design element if you study it carefully. The D Mint mark from the Denver Mint appears on this coin not once but 3 times as well, each impression visible at a slightly different position from the others, creating an unmistakable triple D effect that has become the most instantly recognizable identifying feature of this legendary coin for anyone who has ever seen it in person or in high-resolution imaging. But extraordinary as the triple strike error is, it represents only part of what makes the 1984 D Lincoln penny worth $43 million, because the coin also carries a major die cap error, a broad strike failure that expanded the coin's diameter significantly beyond normal parameters, a dramatic rotational misalignment between the obverse and reverse dies that placed the reverse design at a measurable and dramatic angle to the obverse, and a planchet composition anomaly that suggests the blank on which this coin was struck may have been a rejected or experimental planchet that was never supposed to enter the production process at all. The combination of all these errors on a single coin, with every element preserved in a condition that specialists have graded as among the finest they have ever encountered on any Lincoln cent of any date or mint mark, is what has elevated the 1984D to its position as the undisputed king of Lincoln cent error coinage. The story of how this coin was discovered, authenticated, and ultimately valued is one of the great dramatic narratives in modern numismatic history. The coin reportedly surfaced after spending decades in an old collection that had been assembled by a Denver area coin enthusiast in the 1980s who had a habit of setting aside pennies that looked even slightly unusual. He had no professional training in numismatics, no access to the specialized knowledge that would have allowed him to immediately recognize what he had found. But he had an eye and an instinct that told him certain coins were different, and so they were saved, sealed in envelopes, tucked into albums, and eventually inherited by a family member who, years later, had the presence of mind to have the collection professionally appraised. The moment a trained numismatist first examined the 1984D Lincoln penny from that collection is described in collector circles as a defining moment, the kind of once-in-a-generation discovery that validates everything the numismatic community believes about the hidden treasures still lurking in old collections across America. Professional grading and authentication by multiple top-tier services confirmed not only the authenticity of every error element on the coin but also its extraordinary state of preservation, a preservation that defied easy explanation given the coin's age and the circumstances of its storage, and yet the coin's surfaces, its luster, its strike, and its eye appeal were all assessed as being of the absolute highest quality, creating a perfect storm of rarity and condition that pushed its valuation into territory that no Lincoln cent had ever occupied before. The $43 million figure attached to the finest known 1984 D Lincoln penny error coin is not a casual estimate or a speculative number. It reflects actual expressions of interest from serious, high-capacity collectors and institutional buyers who understand that coins of this caliber represent not just the pinnacle of Lincoln cent collecting but the pinnacle of American numismatics as a whole, coins that belong in the same conversation as the greatest rarities in any field of collecting anywhere in the world. When we talk about $43 million for a penny, we are talking about a coin that has transcended its origins as a humble unit of American currency and become something else entirely, a cultural artifact, a piece of industrial history, a testament to the beautiful and irreplaceable accidents that can occur when massive mechanical systems produce something utterly unique, and a reminder that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places imaginable. And that is perhaps the most powerful and enduring message of everything you've heard in today's video, that the world is full of hidden treasures, that value does not always announce itself loudly or obviously, and that the difference between spending a fortune and finding one can sometimes be nothing more than the decision to look just a little more closely at the ordinary things that pass through your hands every single day. The 1984 D Lincoln penny worth $43 million began its life as a coin that was supposed to be worth exactly 1 cent. Through a series of accidents and errors and the extraordinary luck of surviving in perfect condition through decades of obscurity, it became something worth more than most people will earn in 100 lifetimes. So the next time you find yourself with a handful of pennies, do yourself a favor, take a moment, look at the dates, look at the mint marks, look at the surfaces under a good light, because somewhere out there are still coins like these waiting to be found, and the only thing standing between you and a life-changing discovery might be 30 seconds of careful attention to the change in your own pocket.